What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast. I'm Eric, Mr. Cincinnati Robinson, and conspicuous by his absence is the podcast dad, Chris Hoops. He is on dad duty this evening, so while he's having a little bit more fun being with the little ones, I get the privilege and opportunity to interview our next guest. He is trained under the tutelage of the natural Dustin Rhodes. He was the first Rhodes Wrestling Academy champion. Most recently, he has competed for Blood, Sweat, and Tears Wrestling, Fight Life Pro Wrestling, as well as competing in the Cynic City Invitational Rumble this past weekend. He revels in opportunity and he's ready to unleash his skills on the wrestling world. So, everybody, please join me in welcoming Lucas Chase to our show. Lucas, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well, man. That was a pretty awesome introduction. I don't think I've ever had such a proper intro like that. That's pretty cool.
Well, like I said, we do our research around here, man. But we're certainly glad to have you joining our show, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We talked a little bit before we got started about the importance of content creation within the world of wrestling, and there is a small part that we play. You guys are the real heroes here. We just we're just the super fans.
And I do appreciate you having me on. And yeah, we were talking a little bit off microphone there beforehand about that content quality, but we may be putting it out there in the ring, but you guys help promote us. Independent wrestling as a whole and independent wrestlers, we are our own brands, and no one goes to bat for us more than we do for ourselves. And you podcast hosts and the things that you guys do really help the trajectory of our careers. You know what I mean? So it works both ways for sure.
Well, we greatly appreciate that. And let's dive right on in. Here at the Wrestling Junkies, we look at wrestling superheroes, supervillains that clash, and everyone has an origin story. So, Lucas, tell our audience a little bit about your earliest memories of pro wrestling.
So I mean, I'm one of those lifers. I've been a fan since I can remember. It's well documented that my history in professional wrestling goes all the way back to me being a child and running around, New York and going to shows and sitting on my grandmother's lap and watching, Dusty Rhodes and watching, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and all those guys, Andre the Giant, things of that nature. And so fast forward is kind of like the only thing I ever really wanted to do. Like to the point where, I mean, like I've been in and out of 9 to 5 jobs because pro wrestling is just the thing that keeps me ticking. But fast forward to me being 18, turning 19, and I'm living in Connecticut at the time, and I found a wrestling school. I graduated from high school. That was the deal from my parents. If I graduate high school, I could pursue wrestling. I paid my tuition fee. I wrestled. I learned how to wrestle 6 months to a year in training, and started doing some independence around in the early 2010s. And I took a big break. I had some personal demons that I had to overcome. I'm 5 years sober now from alcohol and trucking along. But I got back into professional wrestling in about 2017 after taking a little bit of hiatus, and went down and trained with Dustin Rhodes. Like you said in the beginning of the pod, became his first RWA champion and been traveling these roads ever since, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what was it about Rhodes Wrestling Academy that was where you knew you wanted to train?
So I have had the privilege. Dustin Rhodes isn't my first trainer. My first trainer was a gentleman by the name of Tukey Tucker, and he was an independent Northeast wrestler, and he was my first trainer. Right after that, I started training up in East Haven, Connecticut, with Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, which is actually ran by Mario Mancini and Paul Roma, who's documented for Horsemen, former tag team
Yeah.
partner of Arn Anderson. And then I ended up going down to Rhodes Wrestling Academy. And the reason I went down to Rhodes Wrestling Academy is two huge reasons. One, I wanted to take a chance on myself more than anything and get out of my comfort zone and move to the South and really envelop myself in the wrestling bubble to learn as much as possible. And two, I've always had such admiration and respect for the Rhodes family, always been a fan of their stuff, always been someone who paid attention to, Dustin and Dusty and Cody in the early years up until today. And to have someone like Dustin Rhodes teach me and be under that learning tree, trying to hit every branch on the way up and the way back down, is the only option I think I've really ever had. I don't think I chose Rose Wrestling Academy. I think my career trajectory, I think the universe put me there.
Oh, very, very well said. Very well said. And that's, I mean, and there's so many different things that you can look at when looking at a wrestling school and whether it's a good fit. So, I mean, that's a very astute take on where you felt that your career was taking you at that time to get the additional training. You've also pointed out, or we've
Oh,
also, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry to cut you
No, it's
off.
all
I
right.
just wanted to add to that. Who better to learn from than someone like Dustin Rhodes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this guy grew up in the business with his father being one of the most influential and legendary professional wrestlers of all time. The knowledge that he has been bestowed upon by guys like Arn Anderson and Dean Malenko and a man who just retired from pro wrestling last night as we record this in Sting. He's learned from all these people, and he was able to forge his own identity in the World Wrestling Federation and kind of push the envelope before pushing the envelope was a thing. As the Goldust character.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to learn pro wrestling from technical skill to how to be fluent in the ring, how to use your body, to gimmick production, to promo production and character development, I don't think there's a better person than Dustin Rhodes to sit under.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you think about the fact that he's competed in 5 different decades, and I mean, he started very, very young in his career as well, and to have that, somebody who has been looked at, especially being a second generation wrestler that had the spotlight on him from a very, very young age, and has had his ups and has had his downs, but here he is still stepping.
Oh, 100%. And he keeps stepping. That's not just a little moniker, man. That really is him. And Dustin is not only a phenomenal teacher, mentor, and friend, but he is a dynamite human being. And I don't think there's anybody better in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You were also the first Rhodes Wrestling Academy champion in history. How did it feel to earn such an honor like this so early into your career?
So still to this day, I've held championships around the Northeast and around the independents. But winning that championship and being the inaugural Rhodes Wrestling Academy champion in the second ever showcase is the biggest honor I've had in my career thus far. For someone like Dustin to take a look at me intimately within, the time that I was in Texas, learn under him, and to say, you've got something that no one else here has, and I want you to be the face of my school. I want you to be the face of my championship and of my brand. That is an honor that is not only earned, but when earned, it is the greatest feeling in the world. And I took that so seriously. And when I won that championship in that triple threat match against two amazing wrestlers in Chad Lennox and Zachariah, if you guys who are
Hmm.
listening to this podcast get a chance to check them out, check out Chad Lennox, check out Zachariah. They're two very, very good workhorse type wrestlers on the independents. And we had a barn burner, which you can watch on YouTube. I put that triple threat match up against any triple threat match ever. And I think we had a really good match. And at the end of it, the emotions came out. There was not a dry eye on my body. I'll tell you that much. I was a leaky faucet of emotion. Especially not knowing that when I won the belt, Dustin was going to get in the ring and give me a hug and give me the belt and bestow the belt
Yeah,
himself to me. I wouldn't change that moment for the world. That's something that I will remember forever.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so let's fast forward a bit into your career. As I was doing my research for this interview, one thing I noticed about you and your promos is an emphasis on self-reflection and self-awareness. What advice would you give to aspiring wrestlers looking to cultivate a promo style that's unique to them?
Um, that's a very good question. I and thank you for the kind words on my promo. I would probably give this piece of advice to aspiring wrestlers who are looking to up their promo skills or looking to, sharpen their technique and find themselves, as you said. Don't try to be your character. Don't try to be your gimmick. I would say just be your gimmick. And what I mean by that is, we have these outlandish gimmicks, or sometimes we don't have outlandish gimmicks, and we got to bring out the personality in our words. And sometimes our personalities are so large, we need to envelop that in a believable way. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to take things that have happened to you in real life, take things that you think about, take things that you as a person are, and put them in there. My promo style and my promo concepts all stem from self reflection, self development, bettering oneself because of my sobriety, because of my battle with addiction and how I came through the other side. I have a lot of experience dealing with self doubt, with rebuilding, with redemption, with, things of that nature down the line that we deal with every day in our lives. So I tried to take that and make my promos sound as genuine as possible by putting in my personal experience outside of the wrestling world.
It's good. It's sound advice. I mean, and it's especially with the being the character as opposed to trying to be the character and not necessarily forcing it. Am I hearing that correctly?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I everything is trial by fire. If I can, piggyback off that piece of advice, I'll add this
Yeah.
part. Don't be afraid to sound stupid. Don't be afraid to fall flat, whether it's a live promo in front of a crowd, whether it's a pre-tape. Just be as much of a real person as possible. I just did a promo last week. It was right after my match at Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Hamden, Connecticut against Channing Thomas. And I cut a post match promo. And I didn't realize that I actually fumbled in my words in the middle of the
Hmm.
promo. But the biggest thing why I didn't realize it was because I kept going. No one, is going to believe a picture perfect word by word scripted speech promo. It's something that's very see through. It's something that's very transparent, and having those fumbles but keep going. That's how we speak as people. That's
Yeah.
conversational. So if you can remain conversational and you can be your character, sky's the limit.
Two pieces of advice for the price of one. That's awesome. Uh, so I want to talk about the Brick City Boys. You guys are riding a high right now at We Are Wrestling. How did you
Ooh,
meet
my
them, and
boys.
how did you know that these are the guys to align with?
So Brick City, Julio Cruz and my brother, my Chase brother, Victor Chase. I love those guys, man. They are two phenomenal wrestlers and people from the Northeast and the Jersey area. And I actually met Brick City um, up at this old promotion in Rhode Island called XWA. And I was working there. We used to do a show, a weekly taping every single week. They charged $5 at the door, and none of us got paid.
Oh,
And we
wow.
would go up there to get reps. We would travel up there every single Thursday to get reps and cultivate our characters and the whole nine. And I met Brick City there. We clicked, we hit it off. But then we kind of separated a little bit after COVID and everything. I hadn't seen them in a while, the whole nines. And then I ended up at Northeast Wrestling. And when I ended up at Northeast Wrestling, we were on similar cards together for a couple months, and we kind of reignited our friendship, and we would see each other up at Wrestling Open and things like that up in Massachusetts, and we got the opportunity through Northeast Wrestling to form Victorium with Brett Ryan Gosling, who's full of Kenergy, BRG,
Yep.
and you know, we were able to form this foursome faction, very, very reminiscent of like the Four Horsemen. We wanted to be four guys who could work, four guys who can talk, and four guys that were going to make their mark on wrestling and on Northeast wrestling. And so, we decided to align ourselves because we all wanted the same thing. We all wanted to come out better than what we were going in, and we all push ourselves. Even though Victorium, had to take a little bit of hiatus, and now we're back at We Are Wrestling, and we're riding high, like you said. Coming off of a victory at the last show. Um, you know, we push each other inside and outside of the ring. And there's nobody else as far as faction mates, tag mates, and friends that I would rather have in my corner than those two guys and BRG.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, no, I was able to catch you guys promo from last week, and I mean, you guys were spitting fire. It was just, yeah, it was masterful.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So let's talk about this past weekend, Scenic City Rumble, and you set out to make an impact during your debut. What goes through your mind when you are debuting in a new promotion for the first time ever?
Uh, for one, I love that wrestling brings me to these places. Because not only was it my debut in the Scenic City Invitational Rumble, but it was also my Tennessee debut. So I'm very grateful to be able to get the opportunities to go to these places. And every time I am in one of these new places, I am debuting at a new promotion. The first thing that goes through my head is no one knows who you are here. And the reason I tell myself that is not a twinkle of self doubt or anything like that. It's not self deprecating.
Sure.
It's so that I know when I go through that curtain, I have to be 110% on to get them to leave them there knowing who I am, even though when they came in, they did not.
Well said. Well said. I mean, yeah, make them be so good they can't ignore you.
That's it. And as soon as I chop somebody, I think I do that. So
There you go. There you go. There you go. So I do want to talk about the trip down there, and I came across something you tweeted. You said that Everywhere by Michelle Branch is still a banger after all these years. What else is on your road trip playlist when you're making the town?
all right. So I traveled down. I was in the car with Landon Hale, the good doctor.
Yep, friend of the
Uh,
show.
my my buddy. That is my guy, Landon Hale. And so we're driving down, and I on my playlist. Okay, we went from everything from Lando's country music playlist, of course, Kentucky boy,
Yep.
doing his thing. He's playing the country music. I'm all about it. I'm a big Cash and Patsy Cline fan, so that's on my trip playlist.
All right.
We also, obviously Michelle Branch. I actually am very proud of an emo playlist that I've cultivated. It is about 5 hours long at this point, and it has the greatest emo tracks of the 21st century on there, which is everything from Story of the Year to Blink 182 to Fall Out Boy, Avril Lavigne, just like anything that was on the radio emo wise, it's probably on there. Plus
Okay.
some deep cuts, and then of course I got my hip hop playlist. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, New York, originally. I got my hip hop playlist. I got my Wu Tang. I got my Biggie. I got my Tupac. I got my Mace, and
Love
of
it.
course I got Jay-Z and Nas on there. Stillmatic in full, that record, and Reasonable Doubt on there top to bottom.
Very nice, man. That's yeah. You got to have a little bit of everything on those long trips. That's for sure.
100%. We were in the car for about 12 and a half hours. We wrestled at Blood, Sweat, Tears Wrestling in Hamden on Friday night. We got in the car after the show and drove down to Chattanooga from Connecticut for Scenic City on Saturday.
Man, yeah, that's riding those roads, man. I like it. I like it.
That's the only way.
Uh, so as we start to look towards the rest of 2024 for you, you have a dog collar match coming up on April 26th against Anthony Gamble. Doesn't seem like We Are Wrestling is big enough for the two of you guys to coexist. So what is it about Anthony Gamble and what makes this rivalry so intense?
Um, Gamble spoiled my debut in We Are Wrestling, and normally I wouldn't really think too much of it. A loss could be a loss; it's a learning opportunity. However, like I stated before, I am originally born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I moved to Connecticut when I and when I did, it was the first time in my entire career that I was able to finally wrestle in the Bronx, New York. And Anthony Gamble spoiled that. He came in, rightfully so, powerhouse in his own right, coming from the Fallout Shelter training facility in New York. Masha Slamovich, Akira, and the likes all trained there and have been trained there. And he's a hard hitting guy. He just stepped to the wrong dude. He spoiled the wrong party.
Okay.
And come April 26th, we are wrestling the dog collar match. I chose this match. I'm going to tell you right now, log into Title Match Network on April 26th. Parental discretion will be advised because it will be a fight. And that dog collar match is going to be something like no one's ever seen on the independents before.
You certainly got my attention, that's for sure. I like it. I like it. So we've been talking all things Lucas Chase for about 20 minutes now. And before we wrap up the interview, we want to give you the chance to turn that spotlight on some other names that we should be looking out for in 2024. I know that you've put a couple out there already, but this is your time to spotlight anybody that you've come across recently that you think deserves their flowers as well.
No, yeah, absolutely. I would definitely like to give a shout out to my boys in the Miracle Generation up here in CT, Flash Wall, Dustin Flash Waller. and Kylon King, the current IWTV Tag Team Champions. They are amazing kids, amazing talents. I would also like to shout out my boy Landon Hale, of course, the good doctor,
Yep.
chiropractic and spinal specialist. Trust me, I felt the back cracker myself. Um, and a guy like a Bobby Buffet from the Monster Factory, huge shout out. Definitely check him out. And last but not least, I would have to say my boy Ichiban, man, number one. Ichiban. Actually, everybody in the Church of Greatness. Ichiban, Tyree Taylor, Brother Greatness, and Sammy Diaz. Definitely check all those guys out. They will make your shows better.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, know a bunch of those names and could not agree more. Great work across everybody that you've mentioned there. Um, Before we let you go, I did also hear from Landon that you are a big Waffle House guy. So what's the go-to order?
Go-to order is going to be 2 sunny side eggs up, well done hash browns, covered, smothered, and chunked. You got to have an side sausage with your orange, and of course, a hot cup of coffee and an orange juice.
Well said. All right, that's I don't think I can I don't have any other questions to follow up with that. I don't think. But we do have to hold your feet to the fire here towards the end of the interview, and you're not the only. Every guest gets this question, and you get to weigh in on this debate here. So, Mr. WrestleMania, is it Shawn Michaels or is it The Undertaker?
Ugh. Okay, it's Sean.
Okay.
Not by a lot, but it's Sean because I have seen every single Mania match of both of those guys' careers. And in the beginning, even though he was cultivating an undefeated streak, I mean, it's not like he was having barn burners with Giant Gonzalez and King Kong Bundy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like the Taker matches really didn't get to be that great at Mania up until about like, I mean, he had a good one with Psycho Sid. That was good at 11. That was a good match. He had a good one with obviously the first one with Kane at 14.
Yep.
And then 15, Big Boss Man, the Hell in the Cell. That was a cool one. That was like the Ministry of Darkness era. That was really dope. And then you start getting into the cool Taker matches. But I mean, like Shawn
Yep.
Michaels, you go back to like WrestleMania 8, right? And
Yep.
or not 8, WrestleMania 9. He opened Vegas against Tito Santana.
Yep.
And man, I tell you, I would put that WrestleMania opener from work rate all the way to like psychology and just overall match quality up against any modern match now. And
Okay.
from everything from Sean's performance as like the new like heel with Sensational Sherry at ringside doing the manager stuff to how over Tito Santana was. I mean that's his first singles and the rest is history. I mean, you got Iron Man
Yeah.
matches, you got Chris Jericho at 19, you got Kurt Angle at 21, you got the triple threat from 20. I mean, Michaels' resume is just a barn burner list of awesome WrestleMania matches.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. I am Team Shawn Michaels. The podcast dad is Team Undertaker on that debate. So we had to get your 2 cents in before we let you go. Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, tell everybody what you got coming up and where can we find you on social media.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me again. This was a blast. Honestly, some
Good.
very great questions. And put me on a spot with that Mr. WrestleMania one, man. I feel dirty not talking about the Undertaker, but I mean, I gotta go with Heartbreak Kid.
That's okay.
So coming up, got quite a busy March actually. This Friday, March 8th, I'll be in Boston, Massachusetts with Beyond Wrestling Shamrock Slam. That's going to be the biggest event in Beyond Wrestling history. It's over 2,000 tickets sold. It's going to be featuring a 20-man over the top rope battle royal where the winner is going to go on later that night to face IWTV champion Cruel. You got Matt Cardona versus Alec Price in the main event. Willow Nightingale and Rex Lawless against Iron Savage Bronson and Gabby Forza. It's a
All
stacked
right.
card. Next week, we have Wrestling Open in Worcester, Massachusetts every Thursday, as well as on 3/16, my birthday, actually. Um, we will be having Wrestling Open Saturday special up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's going to be live on IWTV on March 16th. And then I will be in Texas for an undisclosed amount of time at the end of the month at the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. So stay tuned for news about that.
Awesome.
And then moving into April, we got some Mania weekend announcements to be made. So check that out on my socials. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter or X at the Lucas Chase. And you can find me on Facebook as The Cure Lucas Chase.
Awesome. Well, we'll certainly be tuning in. Lucas, thank you so much again for joining us. For Lucas Chase and Mr. Cincinnati, this has been a special edition of the Wrestling Junkies podcast, and we'll talk to you guys soon.